Is NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, the world's most powerful military alliance, or a relic of a bygone era that's become a dangerous liability? For over 75 years, it has stood as a bastion of collective defense, but today it finds itself at a critical crossroads. The world has changed dramatically since 1949, and so have the challenges NATO faces. From internal political divisions and questions about burden sharing to the rise of new global powers and the ever-present threat of complex modern warfare, the alliance is being tested like never before. So, is NATO still the indispensable shield of the West, or is it an outdated institution struggling to find its purpose in the 21st century? Stick around as we break down the biggest challenges facing NATO today and explore what its future might hold. Let's rewind the clock to the aftermath of World War II. Europe was in ruins, and the shadow of the Soviet Union loomed large. In this climate of fear and uncertainty, 12 nations from North America and Western Europe came together to sign the North Atlantic Treaty in Washington, D.C. On April 4, 1949, their goal was simple yet profound: to create a system of collective defense. The cornerstone of this alliance is Article 5, which states that an attack on one member is an attack on all. This was a direct message to the Soviet Union: don't even think about it. For the next 4 decades, during the tense standoff of the Cold War, NATO was the West's primary security guarantee. It served as a military and political counterweight to the Warsaw Pact, the alliance of Eastern Bloc nations led by the Soviet Union. The existence of NATO arguably prevented a direct large-scale conflict between the two superpowers, maintaining a fragile peace through a strategy of deterrence. Its military structures were built, its command chains were streamlined, and massive joint exercises became a regular occurrence, all designed to present a unified and formidable front. Then, in 1991, the unthinkable happened. The Soviet Union collapsed, and the Warsaw Pact dissolved. The very reason for NATO's existence seemed to vanish overnight. This led to a period of intense soul-searching. What was the purpose of this massive military alliance without its primary adversary? Critics began to call for its dissolution, arguing it was a relic of the Cold War that could now provoke unnecessary tensions, particularly with a newly formed Russia. However, proponents argued that NATO could evolve. Instead of just a defensive shield, it could become a proactive force for stability in a newly unpredictable world. And evolve it did. The 1990s saw NATO take on new out-of-area missions, most notably in the Balkans. The conflicts in Bosnia and Kosovo were NATO's first major combat operations, where it intervened to stop ethnic cleansing and humanitarian crises. This marked a fundamental shift in its mission, from collective defense of its members' territory to crisis management and intervention beyond its borders. It also began a process of expansion, inviting former Warsaw Pact countries like Poland, Hungary, and the Czech Republic to join its ranks. This was a historic move, meant to heal the divisions of the Cold War and extend the zone of stability and democracy eastward. This period of transformation wasn't without controversy. The expansion eastward was viewed by Russia as a direct threat, a violation of supposed promises made during German reunification. Russian leaders felt encircled and betrayed, a sentiment that has poisoned relations with the West ever since and continues to be a central point of contention today. Then came September 11, 2001. For the first and only time in its history, NATO invoked Article 5. But it wasn't in response to a Soviet tank invasion. It was in response to a terrorist attack on the United States. This propelled the alliance into a new kind of war, the global war on terror. NATO forces were deployed to Afghanistan, leading the International Security Assistance Force, or ISAF, for over a decade. This was a long, costly, and difficult mission that tested the alliance's cohesion and capabilities in counterinsurgency warfare, a far cry from its original mission of defending against a conventional army on the plains of Europe. This brings us to today, where NATO faces a complex web of challenges that threaten its unity and effectiveness. Perhaps the most glaring issue is internal political division. The alliance now has 32 members, each with its own national interests, political priorities, and threat perceptions. Getting all 32 members to agree on a course of action is a monumental diplomatic task. We see this play out frequently. For example, countries on the eastern flank, like Poland and the Baltic states, see Russia as an existential threat and advocate for a very strong confrontational posture. Meanwhile, other members, perhaps geographically more distant, might prioritize issues like terrorism, migration from North Africa, or the strategic challenge posed by China. These differing priorities can lead to friction. Turkey, for instance, has a strategic location and a powerful military, but its actions in Syria and its purchase of Russian air defense systems have created significant tension within the alliance. Similarly, Hungary's leadership has often taken positions that seem more aligned with Moscow than with its NATO allies, complicating consensus-based decision-making. Then there's the perennial issue of burden sharing, often summarized by the 2% target. In 2014, following Russia's annexation of Crimea, NATO members pledged to move towards spending at least 2% of their GDP on defense by 2024. For years, the United States, which accounts for the vast majority of the alliance's military spending, has expressed frustration that many European allies were not meeting this commitment. While recent events have spurred a significant increase in defense spending across Europe, the disparity remains a source of political tension. This isn't just about money, it's about fairness and commitment. The question lingers: is it fair for one nation to shoulder a disproportionate amount of the cost for the collective security of all? This debate fuels political arguments on both sides of the Atlantic and can be exploited by those who wish to see the alliance weakened. And of course, we can't talk about NATO's challenges without focusing on Russia. The full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022 was a brutal wake-up call. It shattered the post-Cold War security order in Europe and fundamentally re-energized NATO. The alliance has responded with unprecedented unity, providing massive amounts of military and financial aid to Ukraine, imposing sanctions on Russia, and massively reinforcing its own eastern flank. Thousands of additional troops, along with advanced aircraft and naval assets, have been deployed to countries bordering Russia. Finland and Sweden, two nations with long histories of military neutrality, made the historic decision to join the alliance, dramatically changing the security map of Northern Europe. In many ways, Putin's aggression achieved the exact opposite of what he intended. It made NATO stronger, more united, and larger than ever before. However, this renewed focus on Russia also brings immense risks. The alliance is walking a tightrope, supporting Ukraine enough to ensure it can defend itself, but not so much as to trigger a direct conflict between NATO and a nuclear-armed Russia. The risk of miscalculation or accidental escalation is terrifyingly real. Beyond Russia, NATO is also grappling with the rise of China. For the first time, NATO's strategic documents explicitly name China as a systemic challenge. This is a huge shift. NATO is, by name, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. But China's growing global influence, its technological ambitions, its military modernization, and its close partnership with Russia have implications for the security of all allies. How does a regional defensive alliance deal with a global economic and military superpower located on the other side of the world? This is a question NATO is still trying to answer. The challenge is to address the security implications of China's rise without starting a new Cold War or alienating members who have strong economic ties with Beijing. Finally, NATO must contend with new domains of warfare. Future conflicts won't just be fought with tanks and planes. They will be fought in cyberspace, in outer space, and in the information sphere. Hybrid warfare, which combines conventional military action with cyber attacks, disinformation campaigns, and economic pressure, is the new norm. Russia has been a master of this, using propaganda and cyber operations to sow discord and weaken Western democracies from within. NATO is racing to build its defenses in these new domains, establishing cyber operations centers and developing strategies to counter disinformation. But the very nature of these threats, often deniable, ambiguous, and targeting civilian society, makes them incredibly difficult to defend against with traditional military tools. So, we return to our original question: alliance or liability? The answer, as you can see, is not simple. On one hand, the alliance faces deep-seated internal divisions, a persistent burden-sharing debate, and the immense challenge of adapting to a world of hybrid threats and new global powers. Its decision-making can be slow and cumbersome, and the risk of being dragged into a conflict is ever present. From this perspective, it can look like a liability, a relic that struggles to keep up with the pace of 21st century geopolitics. But on the other hand, the war in Ukraine has demonstrated NATO's enduring value. It has shown a remarkable capacity for unity and resolve in the face of aggression. The security guarantee of Article 5 remains the most credible deterrent to attack for its members. For countries like Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, NATO is not an abstract concept. It is the fundamental reason they can feel secure living next door to an aggressive Russia. The alliance has proven it can adapt, moving from a Cold War mission to crisis management, and now back to large-scale collective defense, all while expanding its focus to new domains like cyber and space. The future of NATO will depend on its ability to navigate these complex challenges. It will require sustained political will, increased investment, and a continued commitment to the core principle of collective defense. It must find a way to maintain unity among 32 diverse nations, balance the threat from Russia with the challenge from China, and master the art of 21st century warfare. It's a monumental task. The road ahead is uncertain, but one thing is clear: for better or for worse, the decisions made in Brussels will continue to shape global security for decades to come. What do you think? Is NATO essential for peace and stability, or does it create more problems than it solves? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching. And if you found this breakdown helpful, be sure to like the video and subscribe for more deep dives into global affairs. We'll see you in the next one.